My name is Dennis Price. I served about 17 years in the Marine Corps, 15 years active duty, Force Recon, Scout Sniper, Ranger, JSOC. I say all this because at one point in my life, it meant so much to me, those titles. Probably the greatest title I ever had was being a father. I joined the Marine Corps about 17 years old. About 16 years ago in Iraq, I was a machine gunner. We were doing a convoy operation from Fallujah to Ramadi, just like we did hundreds of times before. We were coming up through the city of Ramadi, and we were coming up under an underpass through a bridge. Once you go under the bridge, you switch lanes. The first vehicle goes, they do exactly what they're supposed to do. The next vehicle goes. He ran over a IED, and it kicked off what changed my life for the worst. The vehicle in front of me gets decimated, a rocket flies in between me and the vehicle, and then it kicks off this IED initiated ambush. To my left, to the southeast of the city of Ramadi, we started getting shot at, and all we could see was muzzle blast through the city. After watching that moment of my buds just getting destroyed, I was so mad, I was so angry. I wanted to kill every single person there that day. We were trapped on the X for what seemed to be eternity. From there, I struggled through life and walked through life. I feel like I couldn't feel anything but bitter hate, rage. I had two modes. I was either pissed off or super pissed off. And I let that fire within me consume my life. I started trying to replace that hole inside me, in my spirit, with anything that I could fill it with. At the time, it was like since I pushed out God from my life, he was always there. I just thought he had no place in war. Whenever I came back, I would try to get back into religion, back in the church, and it worked for a little bit. I did 7 back-to-back deployments in the Marine Corps, and then I did 6 more in the private military contracting world. I was chasing the high, trying to fulfill what that void left in my soul. I slowly allowed God back into my life. And then I always went back each deployment to pushing him back out. My youngest daughter, she was born with 2 rare diseases, Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, BWS. I thought my life was over. I thought the world was crashing down on my shoulders. When I got handed that $1.2 million bill from Amelia's Medical, that was my solution. It was that my family will get $400,000 or $500,000. This was my answer. Like, this was my fault. My family would be better off without me. I eventually let the devil into my head so much that there was no other logical thought in my head. He convinced me, and there was not a solid reason past that to take my own life. At this point, I was in my basement working out and biking for like an hour. I eventually picked up the phone after a couple hours, and I called one of my close buds and friends. In my head, I was like, this is not a false promise. Like, I can't think of one solid reason not to blow my brains out right now. Maybe he can give me one reason. He didn't pick up. I called again. He was out traveling. All else was white noise. I couldn't think of a single reason not to do it. Hour 3 or 4 goes by, and I'm still staring at the gun. One last thought goes through my head, and it's a random statistic I read, and says, if a parent commits suicide, your children then are 10 times more likely to then commit suicide. And I'm sitting there like, wow, I can't believe that's what just randomly popped in my head. So as all these statistics are racing through my head and I have the gun in my hand, I'm like, man, I cannot fake it. I can't hack it one more day to give my kids a better life. I can't even do that one last time. I put the gun down and I go in and I put on Cornerstone TV, which is a church channel, and I'm like, man, I'm so messed up right now. I need help. I go seek help through counseling and everything, and go back to what I know. You know, just like everyone's baseline, just like zeroing a sniper rifle or anything like that. I needed zeroed in life. I had to go back to a baseline, and what is that baseline? It's Christianity. It's the church. I don't care if I have to work every hour of my life. I will pay off this $1.2 million debt. I will figure out a way to do it and give my family the father they deserve. I got out and joined, what used to be called Blackwater, and I started government contracting through different contracts, OGA ones to just various different ones. I was walking down the hallways, and all of a sudden, it felt like I got struck by lightning. And that is the best way I always try to describe it. Every hair on my body was standing up. And that's the first and only time I ever heard the audible voice of God. And he says, you have to go save them. I was like, what? What's going on? And I go down the hall, I turn on the TV, and I see Afghanistan, Kabul, all about to fall, and this is before it fell. My rebuttal was, what can I do? And the next response was, anything. Within one day, I had a family who had 6 children. I got given a family, I got given a mission, I got given a timeline saying in 6 days, their oldest daughter, who's 14, and their youngest, and their second daughter, who's 11, are gonna be raped and sold off to the Taliban. And with God's power and everything like that, within 24 hours, I owned a 50-acre compound in Alaska. 24 hours after that, I had a 6-man joint special operations team. 24 hours after that, I had a plane, and I had access to go in Afghanistan. On the 5th day, we rescued his family out of Afghanistan. That changed my life. From that moment, immediately rescuing them, I got shifted all of these missions. In 2 weeks, I was able to save 55 Americans out of Afghanistan. What now is formed as Save Our Allies. I got invited for that, and then that's when I met Chad Robichaud, and he heard what I was doing and what I did, and he offered me to go on a 2-man unsupported operation to cross into Afghanistan and save remainder Americans and provide routes out of Afghanistan. I said, well, this is God's calling. 2 weeks later, we went to Afghanistan, we went to Tajikistan, and we eventually was able to save, about 82 American and vetted interpreters out of Afghanistan. I say that all because this is not my story to tell, this is God's story. He used me, a broken man, used my life skill when I convinced myself years ago that I was here as God's war vessel. It was just that slight shift from going from taking lives to saving lives. It changed my life. I now dedicate my life to serving God, serving the Lord, and using my skill set to helping others and serving others. Now I work at Mighty Oaks. I go around and help other veterans. I help them deal with the same exact things I am. And I go around the world and just try to help people out, because that's ultimately what we're here for.